Hey everybody, it's Triple J and welcome to another video in our Rimworld tutorial series. This one's just going to be a short, basic tutorial video discussing a very important part of your survival on the Rim, growing food. So I have a small starting base here, and we definitely need to start growing some food. So far we've just been living off of hunting some of the local wildlife for our meals. I have some bedrooms, a kitchen, storage area, a little bit of power, just enough to get started. First, let's start out by talking about growing periods. When can you grow food in your current location? So a couple of ways to check that. One, you can click the world map to see your location, then click terrain to check the stats of the tile you inhabit. Here you can see that we can grow for 30 out of 60 days from the 6th of April, May to the 6th of September. You can also see this when you create a growing zone down in the bottom left-hand corner here. See, 30 out of 60 days. You can also see that the growing season is here now. So we're currently on the 13th of April, May. We started on the 6th. So we've been here about 7 days. And I was just using that time to set up getting a base going. Ideally, you want to set up a growing zone or multiple growing zones on your first day to get crops growing as quickly as possible. Next, let's discuss soil types. There is a handy overlay that shows the fertility of the soil on your tile. It is indicated by this small little plant icon down here. This will show you at a quick glance every single tile that has growable soil. If there is no color displayed right down here, it means you can't grow crops there, such as stone, water, or mud. The yellow indicates 70% efficiency on your growing period. You can also see this if you just hover over a tile in the bottom left hand corner. You can see it says stony soil, the walk speed, and then the fertility of that tile. The green, the overall light green, indicates normal or 100% growing efficiency, and the dark green is fertile soil at 140% growing efficiency. Now, before we move on, we should discuss fertility requirements and sensitivities. When you make a growing zone, and you click on the information about a specific crop, it'll tell you lots of great information that can be useful when planning your fields. There's lots of info here, but generally when starting out, you're going to want to look for growing time, fertility sensitivity, and the harvest yields. For example, rice only takes 3 days to grow to maturity, but only offers 6 yield per tile maximum, whereas potatoes yield 11, but will take 5.8 days to grow. There's lots of math you can do here, but for simplicity's sake, we won't get into the min-maxing of crop growth here today. Last thing to look for is the fertility sensitivity. So potatoes, for example, are a very hardy crop that can grow in any soil quite well. Its sensitivity is only 40%, meaning using the precious fertile soil isn't really worth it because its sensitivity to it isn't high, versus corn or rice have a 100% soil sensitivity, meaning that planting it in the fertile soil will yield you the full 140% growing perk, giving you corn and rice 40% faster maturity than in regular soil. Also means that if you plant it in 70% fertility, it will take 30% longer to grow. Starting out, rice is quick, and you're going to want to place that in the fertile soil area just to grow it even faster than the 3 days, especially if you're in a pinch. Then you're going to want potatoes, which are a nice, good middle ground crop. They're very hardy. They're also the default when you make a growing zone. And then you're going to want corn, which is your highest yield food crop, but does take longer to grow. Also make sure you place a bit of that in the fertile soil. So growing a little of each to start can be a great way to make sure that you have food constantly being sown and harvested. Longer term, you can probably move away from rice and stick to either potatoes or corn, just because the rice will start to grow so quickly and it's going to take up more of your growing time from your colonists because they're going to constantly have to sow it, harvest it, replant it, and you just don't get that high of a yield. But in a pinch, if you're starving, rice can be a great lifesaver. Throughout your playthrough, you will need to keep in mind how much food you need, how much time your colonists are taking to grow, harvest, and store the crops, and that's kind of a balance you'll feel out as you play. Always just remember to keep an eye on it. If you have food sitting everywhere and you can't eat all of it and you have nowhere to store it, it might be best to trim back some of your growing zones. All you do is go into shrink zone and you can kind of start to pare back a little bit of that. Now, if there is planted crops where you create that shrink, they will not necessarily harvest it on their own, but it will still grow, so you can have them cut the plant or harvest it by hand, and that is under the orders button here. Then again, on the flip side, if you add a colonist or gain a prisoner, you need to take into account another mouth to feed and plan accordingly. Just keep an eye on your food stores, add, take it away as needed. It's better to have a ton of food than no food. It is the worst feeling when you see a starvation alert over here and you find that your cupboards are bare. That can lead to a nasty downward spiral. No one likes being hungry. Lastly, I want to cover some other basic crops to grow from the beginning: cotton and heel root. Cotton is very useful for making clothes early on, or if you don't have any other leathers or wools from animals to use in other bits of crafting. Cotton is another 100% fertility sensitivity, so another good thing to have in your fertile soil. Heel root you'll definitely want to try and plant in fertile soil if possible, because while the growing period is only 7 days, you only yield 1 herbal medicine per tile. Herbal meds for cuts and bruises can definitely save lives in the hands of a decent doctor, while saving your precious actual medicine for more serious injuries, infections, illness, or the necessary surgery. Now keep in mind, there are minimum skills to grow heel root. So if you click this to add heel root and you don't have a grower who can actually do it, it will indicate to you, it will tell you you do not have a pawn that has enough skill to grow the heel root at this time. You can still plant it, you can still, reserve an area for it, and maybe hope that some of your colonists will get to that 8 skill. Fortunately here, Chaz has an 11 and will be able to grow that heel root just fine. There are definitely more crops and things to grow, such as drugs, but that is something we can cover potentially in a later tutorial. This should help you get started and feel confident in making sure your colonists don't go to bed hungry and have enough food to keep them happy, working toward your survival plan to escape the planet. Thanks so much for watching this quick, little basic growing tutorial. I hope it helps some of our newer players learn some tactics, gain some confidence when starting out, and maybe even help refresh some of our veteran players as well. Let me know if you have any questions or thoughts on things I may not have covered in the comments section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy Rimworlding, everybody.